organization of this forum very opportune. Today, we are gathered here in an international forum as captains of industry, political leaders, investors, traditional authorities, environmentalists, journalists, and others in search of answers relating to energy, environment, and investment in a sustainable manner. I believe that such discourse is very essential as we seek the right balance between the needs of today and the needs of posterity in a world that has finite resources. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we are all aware, at the dawn of this century, the world's community, under the auspices of the United Nations, came up with the United Nations Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, to be achieved by the year 2015. It was in a bid to ensure that all humanity, wherever we may find ourselves, have dignity as individuals and hence the right to freedom, equality, and a basic standard of living that includes freedom from hunger and violence. These MDGs were designed to form a blueprint for the international development and set out the development agenda for the world's low and middle income countries. As we gather here today in mid-2014, we are just a year and a half away from this critical milestone. Several nations among the developing world are at different stages in their quest to attain these development goals. But perhaps many more are still having serious challenges, to say the least. Extreme poverty and global child mortality rates have been halved from their 1990 levels, but progress has been uneven between regions and countries, especially in health and education. Indeed, in some parts of Africa, measures of health standards have rather declined. What seemed to have escaped the development planners when fashioning out these Millennium Development Goals is probably the appreciation of the centrality of energy access to all facets of human endeavors. They ostensibly failed to factor energy access as a critical and catalytic development goal needing its own specific, unequivocal objective of attainment. Regrettably, in the year 2009, in a midterm review of achievement towards the Millennium Development Goals, the United Nations determined that the poorest countries were off track regarding achievement of the MDGs, and that from the then existing data, most of those that were off track had invested less in energy access for the poor. It has since been a near consensus that without access to modern energy services, people cannot escape from poverty and the Millennium Development Goals will not be achieved. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the World Energy Outlook 2011, a report of the International Energy Agency, there are 1.3 billion people around the world in developing countries without access to electricity, and more than 2.7 billion are forced to cook with solid biomass, mostly using insufficient and polluting technologies. This is a large portion of the world's population confronted with absolute energy poverty. These people are trapped in the vicious cycle of poverty. The situation in sub-Saharan Africa regarding access to energy and the achievement of the Millennium Development Goals is of particular concern. Among 30 sub-Saharan African countries, only 14 are on course to reduce the number of people living with hunger by at least 25% by the year 2015, according to the United Nations. By 2008, in sub-Saharan Africa, the average electrification rate was only 28%. And in rural areas, the average was less than 12%. And this figure was even less when South Africa, one of the BRICS nations, is excluded. In this region, the UNDP reckons that there has not been any progress on energy access during the last decade, noting that in sub-Saharan Africa, the number of people without electricity has rather increased from 526 million in 2004 to 585 million in 2009. Ladies and gentlemen, energy is critical for human development. Access to energy ensures a life of dignity and opportunity for all, as energy is woven into the fabric of human life at all levels, and all people and all nations need access to energy to grow and prosper. It is central to nearly every major challenge and opportunity that humanity faces in the world today, be it for jobs, security, climate change, food production, or increasing incomes. Access to energy for all is essential. It allows people to access a range of basic services, including drinking water, cooking in a non-polluting manner, lighting, health, education, transport, communications, and other essential services. These are the links of energy needs to the attainment of the Millennium Development Goals. Earlier this year, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, the United Nations Secretary General, described energy, and I quote him, as the golden thread that connects economic growth, increased social equity, and an environment that allows the world to thrive. End of quote. Distinguished audience, the developed countries have and continue to mostly meet their energy demands by the resort to power generating plants that use fossil fuels such as coal and crude oil. They also ensure their economic developmental needs by way of vigorous industrialization, which discharges uncontrollable amounts of greenhouse gases into the environment. They again mostly meet their transportation needs by millions of vehicles on their roads, each emitting harmful greenhouse gases. These greenhouse gas emissions cause the warming of our planet Earth and are the major components of the anthropogenic causes of climate change, the man-made causes of climate change. These, according to the World Energy Assessment Overview of the year 2004 update, 82% of man-made carbon emissions come from energy. Other causes of climate change are the indiscriminate burning of forests to make way for farming and the burning of charcoal and firewood to make our foods. Still others are the uncontrolled deforestation that occurs when we look for timber resources and also convert lands into cities in the rapid urbanization that we live with today.